Guys, it's Mr. Calderon with Queen My Pawn, and I'm going to be talking about strings in Python. So this is the first video of many that I'll be making in Python. And although I wanted to talk about using Python as a calculator because it's more basic than strings, I think we need to understand what strings are first, because we can always learn how to use the numbers in Python later. And there are some cool tricks, like as some of you who have used Python know about the underscore trick, but I want to talk about strings, okay? Because strings are a big part of Python and lots of interview questions have them. So if you're trying to look for a job, you need to know about strings. So let's get that out the way. I'm going to share my screen right now, my entire screen, and let me just go ahead and do that. Okay, so there we are. So you can see my entire screen now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Stack Overflow. So there we are. And in Stack Overflow, we have a bunch of questions that if you are ever lost, you can always feel free to check out. Okay, so the reason why I'm here is because I put an answer last night about this question regarding strings, okay? And I'm gonna basically get to it at the end of the video, because this question right here confused me for a whole entire day. I was super confused on like, why is there this backslash here? And why is it not here? Because you can see you put it in the interpreter and it doesn't come out here. But when it is put in here, it does come out here. And I'm going to explain that in detail. So first, let's start off PowerShell. And there we are. I'll zoom in to PowerShell because the letters are tiny. And there we are. I am sufficiently zoomed in. So let's start off Python. There we are. Now, a string is a sequence of characters, okay? So if I have this, is it a string or is it just a regular character? Well, in Python, that is a string of just one character. And that's really convenient. So you put it in there and you get, you know, the same thing. That's called a string literal, okay? It means that it's not assigned to anything. But if I have something like my string, like this, then I assign the sequence of characters, that's a string A to it. Now it's not a string literal anymore, it's assigned to my string. And so it's a string object. So when I copy my string out, there is my string object, okay? So let's talk about a few strings, okay? So this is also in the manual. So if you go to the Python docs right there, you're gonna see the documentation. And we're in 3.9.5 right now. We go to tutorial and we go to an informal introduction, and then here we are, strings. So I'm gonna be using the material for that, from that, okay? And so SpamEggs is just a regular string, no big deal, right? So you press enter, and there we are. Now, let's say that you have an apostrophe like that, right? Well, here's the problem with that. Python, the computer thinks that, or the program thinks that this is the beginning of the string, or here where my cursor is. And then it thinks that that's the end of the string. And it ignores everything after that. So when I press enter, you can see that it says invalid syntax because the end of the string was reached before it actually happens, the end. So what we do is we put a backslash to escape that apostrophe, which Python thinks is the end of the string. And now it works. you can see that it's put in double quotes, and I'm going to go more into detail at the end of this video about that. Now, another way to do it so that, let's say your backslash button is broken, I would highly suggest getting a new one or a new keyboard. They're only like 30 bucks. So you could also put it in double quotes like that, and you can see that they're the exact same thing. And this time I had to put a backslash because Python knows that the beginning started with a double quote, so the end must be with a double quote as well, not a single quote. Now let's say that we have something more complicated, like a quote inside of a quote. So let's say I have a single quote enclosure, and then I type stuff in, blah, 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 right? Let's say I want to type in yes, like that. Nothing wrong here. It's just going to give me the same exact thing, right? So let's instead add some more stuff. Yes, comma, they set. Okay, it's going to be the exact same thing because we start with single quotes, we end with single quotes. So everything inside, no problem with interpreting it. It's the same thing. But now, let's say that we wanted to use double quotes instead, like that. Now we do got a problem because you could see that over here, we got the start of the double quote. Python thinks this is the end of the double quote. This is not going to work. You see how it right there at the Y, which is right at the end, it sees it's invalid syntax. So this is getting kind of big. So I'm just going to do import OS and clear the there we go. So now we're back at the top. Okay, so let's instead add some escapes. So this is our first escape, and that's our second escape. And now there is going to be no error. Okay. And now we're getting to the most confusing one out of all of them. So let's say that instead of yes, we type in everything else being the same. I'm going to use actually single quotes instead for this example. So let's say that instead I want to do isn't, like that, isn't, comma. Well, clearly I need to put a escape there because I started and end with single quotes, and that's a single quote inside of the enclosure. So I got to do that, and everything should work out now, right? But why is my backslash still there? What gives with that? And that is a problem that confused me for a whole day. And I looked around and I thought about it at work. I'm like, what am I going to do about this? How am I going to understand this? Well, the good news is we have Stack Overflow. That didn't give me the answer, but it did lead me to a conclusion, right? And after putting my own answer, you could see that I got 10 points and 20 points because I added my answer and it makes sense. So I'm glad that it does. So this person had the same exact problem. So let's zoom in. They had the exact same problem. Like, why is the escape character printed in the second case? And here, this guy put the single quote needs to be escaped because the string is delimited with single quotes. And of course, that's true. I just said that myself as well. And if it wasn't escaped, it would single at the end of the literal. But still, how do we know that it ended with a single quote and not a double quote? Like, why? That's the biggest question that I had. So now I'm going to talk about my answer, which basically answers that. Okay. So I'm going to go over each single example again. And it says it in the docs too. So I'm going to move my my manual over here, and I'm going to show you the most important part. I'm going to zoom in as well. So here it is. The string is enclosed in double quotes if the string contains a single quotes and no double quotes. Otherwise, it is enclosed in single quotes. And still, even though it's a simple sentence with a simple rule, it took me a while to digest as well. Like, how am I going to interpret that? Well, we're going to work on it together. Okay. So let me move that back. And here is how I broke it down. Okay. As you can see, there's two requirements to get double quotes. And that's an easy way to remember things. It's got to pass double the tests to get double quotes. If it passes only one test or no test, it's a single quote thing. So here are the two tests. It's got to contain a single quote and it cannot contain any double quotes. So we're going to rerun all the examples I just did and we're going to figure it out. So let's start with spam X. Spam X. Okay, let's do the two tests. Does it contain a single quote? No, it doesn't contain a single quote. So it already failed the first test, so it's going to be a single quote thing, right? Great. Now let's do doesn't, like that. Remembering to put a delimiter, an escape right there. Now let's do the two tests. Does it contain a single quote? Yes, it does, right here where my cursor is. Does it contain any double quotes? No, it doesn't contain any double quotes. It passed the two tests. It's got to be a double quote. You can see that's true. You can see the double quotes right there. Let's do another example. This time, I'm going to do double quotes like this. All right, let's do the two tests again. Does it contain a single quote? Yes. Does it contain no double quotes? Yes. So there you go. And so we can repeat this 3 more times, and we will, just for the sake of it all. Let me go over here. I think that's the one. No, that's the one. Okay, two tests. You could try it out for yourself. You can pause the video here and figure out, does it contain a single quote or double quote? So try it right now. Okay, so hopefully you pause the video and you try to figure it out. Now, the first test, does it contain a single quote? No, it doesn't contain a single quote, so it's going to be automatically single quotes. The next example is this one. And delimiting this. Does it contain a single quote? No. So it failed the first test, so it's going to be a single quote thing. You see? It's a very simple test. And so I'm really glad I did that. And that finally leads us to this. Figuring out why did backslash is not escaped here. Okay. Does it contain a single quote? Yeah, it does. Does it contain no double quotes? No, there's a double quote right there. So we're going to have an enclosure of single quotes. And because we do have an enclosure of single quotes, the backslash needs to stay. Because if it didn't stay, Python would think, oh, this is the end right here. So then it would just give an error. And so right here, it would end the whole thing. Now I got good news. You could still do this, print. You could still add this right here, print, right, like that. And it's gonna give you the human readable version. That's the only workaround I can think about. Because you can't work around that because Python reads the string literal and it wants to give you the same exact thing because it doesn't want to change the value of it. Like if you were to put that in over again, it should give the same thing. So it's a representation of the string, literal. Okay. And I'm going to put this answer to the description in the YouTube video because it's literally what I just discussed, but I'm so happy that I did discover how to do it. So I'm going to put that in the description. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed my video on strings. There's more to discuss about strings for sure. I wanted to talk about that most importantly. I mean, I guess I'll discuss some more on strings right now since there is some more stuff to discuss, but we got the most important stuff out of the video. So I'm going to make a part 2 instead of just putting it all in one video, because I think we talked about a lot this video. And So I'll see you on the next one. Make sure to click the like button if you like this video. Make sure to subscribe by clicking the red button. We're going to talk about concatenating strings and some other interesting things. There's really not that much to go. So please watch the next video, and I'll see you on the next one.